The Samsung Galaxy S22 long-term review, and I mean it in the title when I say this is it. I do believe this is the last year that Samsung is going to be able to give us a phone just like this, and I'll explain that in just a moment. You know, a lot of people pass this up for phone of the year. All over the internet, you saw it. The Pixel 7 Pro coming away with the phone of 2022, and I kind of disagree with that. I still believe it was the S22 Ultra. I think a lot of people were taking the fact that the Pixel 7 Pro was the most improved phone of 2022 and kind of translating that into making it the phone of the year, but there was still a number of areas where the S22 Ultra outperformed the Pixel 7 Pro handily, and one big one, which we're going to get to later in the video. But even with all that, and the fact that this was my favorite non-foldable of the year, I'm still nonplussed by it, as I've been with the last few generations of the S series, the S20 Ultra, the S21 Ultra, and now the S22 Ultra. And I think there's a couple different reasons for that. First one being the price. I don't think that they're going to be able to get away with another year past the S23 Ultra of giving us this type of experience. This phone is great. It's a hard line drive double down the line. Does that help the team? Is it good? Absolutely. But for that kind of money, for $1,200 in 2023, I'm going to need a 400-foot home run, flip the bat, showing up the pitcher. That's what I'm going to want going forward from these devices, because I think the competition, while I think the Pixel 8 is going to be excellent, because Pixel had that year where they didn't have to worry about anything, there weren't a lot of problems. They're the ones that needed kind of that just get the ball and play kind of year so they could take a bigger swing for the Pixel 8. That's what I expect there. So there's going to be some competition with Pixel. But I think the main competition to the S23 Ultra in 2023 is going to be coming from underneath. Going to be coming from those $450, $500 phones that are providing 85, 90+ % of the flagship experience for a third of the price. That's where I think you're going to see problems start to arise for Samsung's dominance when it comes to these phones. They're riding out their lead. They know they got a big lead, especially here in the United States. They know they can get away with charging it for these devices. They know there's those payment plans through carriers, so people aren't necessarily seeing $1,200. They're just seeing the $40 a month that they're used to through their carriers. So they're kind of riding that. But I think as more people see what something like a Pixel 6a provides at $450 and now cheaper, and then they look at something like this, it's going to change their minds a little bit. The other thing that annoys me a little bit, we gave Apple a lot of heartache, especially here on the channel. You know, I talked about it. A bunch of people have complained about it. Them intentionally nerfing the iPhone SE and certainly the iPhone 14 Plus, just the regular iPhone 14 Plus, by not including some specs that you'd think in those price ranges they should have. And it was pretty clear cut why they would do it. They didn't want it eating into the sales of the more expensive devices. That's exactly what Samsung is doing with the S line of devices. There's no reason why the S22 Plus, and now I'm sure the S23 Plus, should be nerfed as hard as it is for that money. There's no way that that device should have a 1080p display. There's no way that that device should be limited to 8 gigs of RAM. There's no way that that device should have a smaller battery. They should be providing a legitimate alternative to people who don't need the S Pen. Just to get all the camera features, just to get the bigger battery, just to get more RAM, they're forcing you to spend more money and take on features that you don't necessarily need. And don't give me that thing. Well, they said, well, now there's, because of the pandemic, they cut back on products and all the rest. They have 1 million SKUs. They have 1 million phones. How many A-series phones they have? If you were telling me, if Samsung came out and said, you know what, we're cutting the A04 series of device in favor of keeping the A14, you know, that I'm going to buy. That I'll buy. But when you talk about the flagship design and the flagship portion of the business, just stop it with that. Stop with it. Samsung has 1 million products. It reminds me back in the day, a Macintosh Quadra, Performa, LC2. It has those type of vibes. So there's no way that they shouldn't be able to offer a legitimate Note-type alternative, but then also a regular, make that S22 Plus, the S23 Plus, that kind of device that gives you those features without the S Pen and a slightly different design. So that to me kind of warps my perception of the S22 Ultra. It's an excellent device. It does everything well. To me, it's tops in almost every category, with the exception of battery life. But for that kind of money, it's like, yeah, you should be. But where is it going to go going forward? What's that going to be next year and the year after that? And I think that's where we're going to fall into something. But there is one thing that they do really well, and they've surpassed Google in, and we're going to talk about that right now. So along with the build quality and the display and the slight performance boost that you get with the S22 Ultra, there's one major area where I do believe they've finally surpassed the Pixel, and that is, oddly enough, it's a weird thing to say when you're talking about a Google device or comparing something to a Google device, the software experience. One UI 5.0 is it. It is absolutely fantastic. They nailed it all around. Just the first bit that you start with, just when you drag down your notification shade, just how nicely it all goes together. Just this slight transparency that reminds you, the phone started doing that way back with the iOS 7 when you started to see that in devices. But this is nicely refined. It looks like an operating system that you'd want to use in 2023. The Samsung designers and engineers put the toggles that you need within view quickly. You can actually toggle Wi-Fi on and off. It's bizarre. What an idea. What a crazy concept. Being able to toggle Wi-Fi with a single swipe. You can do that on this device. But I just love the way it all goes together. And it doesn't mean that material you use not here. It doesn't mean that there's integration from the system UI and your wallpaper and all the rest of it. It's still here. It's just not in your face and looks like it was done in MS Paint. That's something that I would design. And the problem that I have with the Pixel experience is I've been using it a lot. Because now when devices want to use stock Android, or relatively stock Android, like the Unihertz tank, like this Lenovo tablet that I'm reviewing for Android Police, it looks awful. It's just an awful UI experience. It's that blocky, weird notifications. Your eyes don't know where they want to go first. It just overall is a mess. So I love what Samsung has done with this device and with One UI 5.0, and the performance is unmatched. It is lag-free, the animations are great, and you just get the notification shade that's actually useful, but it has an aesthetic that blends in with the rest of the UI and feels like an experience that you're getting in 2023 and not 1983. And that makes a difference when you're looking at a device. So just overall, I think, now they've gone back and forth with who's been better with updates. Recently, it's been Samsung. Samsung has this pattern of waiting a little bit longer when a device first comes out for updating. I think this had to wait a couple months before a first update. They wait for a kind of a major update in order to release it. But I have no problem with that. This didn't release with anything broken on it, and it's running just as snappy and just as great as it was on release, and that is a testament to what Samsung has done over the years with their software department in updating these devices and keeping them running well, if not a little bit better than they were on release. But overall, you have to love the S22 Ultra. You just have to love it. But those frustrations that are there, the price, the fact that you're basically forced to buy this device if you want the best and latest that Samsung has to offer, those are things that I feel will eventually eat into the consumer base for this device and get people looking other places and say, hey, hold on, wait a minute. Do I really need all of that? Do I really need to spend this kind of money? So what I would say to this is an excellent device, phone of the year for me, but it better be for $1,200. So for the S23 Ultra coming out this year, link will be in the description. You haven't reserved yet, by the way. Get that $50 off. But for that coming out, it better be that home run. Just singles and doubles aren't going to do it anymore. I need to see those grand slam, trotting the bases, home runs out of Samsung if you want to keep justifying that extreme price on flagship devices. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have that Steve-licious day.